नमस्कार दोस्तों. You all know about preamble. Preamble is the identity card of the Constitution. It reflects our aspirations and values. तो इस क्लास में दोस्तों आज अपन preamble के बारे में पढ़ेंगे और मास्टर पॉलिटी इन 40 डेज के अंदर ये पहली क्लास वैसी होगी जिसमें हार्ड कोर पॉलिटी पढ़ी जाएगी. अभी तक अपन जो पढ़ रहे थे दोज वर मोर पॉलिटिकल थ्योरीज, दो वर मोर philosophical concepts such as equality, social justice, such as secularism, but इसमें हार्ड कोर पॉलिटी जहाँ से आपके प्रीलिम्स और मेंस में क्वेश्चन आ जाते हैं वो चीज़ पढ़ेंगे. तो प्रीएम्बल के बारे में पढ़ेंगे. बहुत ही खूबसूरत चीज़ है, नोन एज द आइडेंटिटी कार्ड ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. अपन सबको पता है कि इट इज़ यूज्ड फॉर इंटरप्रेटिंग द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. ठीक है, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का जब इंटरप्रिटेशन होता है बाय द कोर्ट या फिर कोई लॉ बन रहा होता है तो फाइनल वैल्यूज़ और एस्पिरेशंस क्या हैं उनको ध्यान में रखना बहुत ज़रूरी है. एवरी नेशन हैव सम एंड्स, और भारत के जो एंड्स हैं वो कहाँ लिखे हुए हैं. व्हाट वी वांट टू अचीव, व्हाट वी एस्पायर, व्हाट वैल्यूज़ वी वांट टू हैव इन आवर सोसाइटी, व्हाट वैल्यूज़ वी वांट टू प्रमोट थ्रू आवर पॉलिटी, एवरीथिंग इज रिटन इन द प्रीएम्बल. बहुत सी चीज़ों को रिफ्लेक्ट करता है. नेचर ऑफ स्टेट बताता है. इंडिया इज़ अ सॉवरेन सोशलिस्ट सेक्युलर डेमोक्रेटिक रिपब्लिक. ये तो प्रेजेंट के बारे में बताता है, साथ में पास्ट के बारे में बताता है. बोलता है कि ऑन दिस डे ऑफ 26th of November 1949 वी हेयर बाय अडॉप्ट, इनैक्ट एंड गिव टू अवर सेल्फ दिस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. ये पास्ट के बारे में. और फ्यूचर के बारे में भी बताता है. बोलता है व्हाट एस्पिरेशंस वी वांट टू होल्ड, एस्पिरेशंस सच एज जस्टिस, एस्पिरेशंस सच एज इक्वालिटी, लिबर्टी, फ्रेटर्निटी. इन सब के बारे में पढ़ेंगे दोस्तों अपन. तो जुड़े रहिए मेरे साथ. आई एम Mayank Bhardwaj, welcome to SRIRAM's IAS, welcome to this polity lecture of Master Polity in 40 days, and let's dive deep in our topic, we the people of India. This is very important, isn't it? We shows some kind of nationalism and patriotism, isn't it? Shows that the land, you know, the boundaries of the land and the people living inside it have been living here from a very, very long time, and they have a common identity despite of the diversity which the Indian people have. We have huge diversity. There are differences in people. Okay, there's diversity on the basis of religion, caste, on the basis of races, on the basis of genders. Now even LGBTQ community is recognized in India. Okay, so much diversity is there. There are languages, thousands of them, and instead of having great divides, what we have is the inner pass, some kind of an underpass, I could say. And what is that? That's sort of a unity which Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru mentions in his book Discovery of India. If you travel from north to south and from east to west, you will find that there is a common thread which is uniting the people of India. That can only be visible in India because no other country is so diverse. Countries have been made on a basis of religion. They, the state have one particular religion and they follow that religion, and that particular religion does not allow the minority religions to grow. There are no cultural rights which are available to other communities in such a society. Then there are free societies in the United States also. But initially, when they were becoming a liberal society, they were establishing their own constitution. At that point in time, they had very homogeneous society with one religion and a white race. Of course, with migration, their society have changed and evolved, and now they are looking towards India, that how India could handle such a diversity and still remain united for a very, very long time now. So we are going to see and appreciate the beauty of our country through this lecture. So preamble serves as an introduction to the Constitution. Now what is this introduction? An identity card, isn't it? What is written on your identity card? आपके identity card पे क्या लिखा रहता है? भाई आप जिस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में काम करते हैं वो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का नाम लिखा रहता है, आपका नाम लिखा रहता है, फ़ोन नंबर लिखा रहता है, पता लिखा रहता है. यही सब चीज़ें होती हैं. उसी तरह से जो संविधान बनाया है भारत में कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन मेकर्स ने 2.5 से 3 साल की गहरी मेहनत में जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बना है वो क्या रिफ्लेक्ट करता है, वो क्या चाहता है, उसका जैसे अपन ने अभी देखा, उसका पास्ट, प्रेजेंट एंड फ्यूचर, एवरीथिंग इज मेंशन्ड इन द प्रीएम्बल. So that is what is an introduction, that is what is an identity card. It sets out objective for the legislation. ये legislation क्या है? ये वो है जो पार्लियामेंट में, स्टेट लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबलीज में बनाए जाते हैं. कोई भी लॉ पार्लियामेंट अगर पास कर रहा है तो उसका एंड क्या होना चाहिए? व्हाट द पार्लियामेंट थ्रू दिस लॉ वांट्स टू अचीव, आइदर इक्वालिटी, आइदर जस्टिस, आइदर लिबर्टी, आइदर फ्रेटर्निटी, वन ऑफ देम. और किसी भी लॉ या रूल या रेगुलेशन से, बाय लॉ से, अमेंडमेंट से, ये जो फीचर्स जो मैंने अभी बताया आपको, दीज एस्पिरेशंस, दीज गोल्स must not be infringed, must not be curtailed. And that is the reason why we are saying that it sets out the objectives for legislation. It acts as a key to the understanding of policy and legislative intent in India. What is the intent of a particular legislation? आप कोई भी legislation उठा लीजिए and try to ask that what is the end which the legislature wants to achieve through this legislation. आपको समझ में आएगा that its basis and its genesis can be found in the preamble. It can be linked to the preamble of India. Everything, even the provisions of the Constitution of India, it is somehow, somewhere reflected in the preamble of India. For example, 324 article establishes the Election Commission of India. Now, why you need a constitutional body such as Election Commission? Because it is important to establish the democratic system in the country, and for that democratic system, continuous election, fair and free elections are needed in the country. Who other than the democratic body can conduct that? And that is the reason why Election Commission is there. Now try to find its genesis in the preamble, and you will find that India is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and that democracy needs to be there. Even for the republican nature to be maintained, Election Commission is a very important body. I hope you are getting it. It reflects the vision, the aspirations, and the philosophy of the Constitution. What is this vision, aspiration, and philosophy? That we want our country to have justice, justice of all kind, social, economic, political. We want it to have liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. We want our country to be equal, to protect the equality of people, equality of status, equality of opportunity, the opportunity which needs to be given to everybody, including the marginalized section, the underprivileged section, for the maintenance of equality in the society. That is very important. And we want to promote fraternity, for the unity and integrity of this nation, and for the dignity of individual. That is the vision and the aspiration and the philosophy our constitution makers wanted to hold. That is the dream they have seen, and now we can see that the dream has been fulfilled to a great extent. Still, few things are remaining. Still, we have to work. I am not saying India is perfect. I am not saying the constitution works perfectly. But yes, we have achieved far greater gains compared to many other countries in the world, despite of the diversity which we have. Moving on. Why is this preamble important? It is an interpretative tool for understanding constitutional provisions. Now again, when the judiciary is interpreting, the work of the judiciary is to interpret the constitution. Article 21 says right to life and personal liberty. Now that is one right. But to include right to privacy as a very important element of right to life and personal liberty is something done by the court. Clean air, that also becomes a right. Clean environment is again a fundamental right. Right against climate change, that's a fundamental right. Okay, then you have right to education, which has been added by the legislature under Article 21A. So finally, what we want to achieve, that is written in the preamble, and all kind of interpretation of the constitution or the legislative intent which are there, या तो संविधान को या संविधान के प्रोविजंस को इंटरप्रेट कर रहा है जब जुडिशरी, या फिर लेजिस्लेचर लॉ बना रही है, तो फाइनली वो क्या अचीव करना चाहती है, उन सब का मेंशन आपको प्रीएम्बल में मिल जाएगा. and that is the reason why we are saying that it is a interpretative tool. ठीक है? That when such an important body such as the judiciary is interpreting the constitution, तो वो preamble को देखे और then interpret करे according to the preamble, so that they do not go out of that boundary which has been maintained by the preamble of the constitution. It embodies fundamental values and guiding principles. Of course it does. Fundamental values such as liberty, equality, fraternity, and guiding principles, which guides us that our legislature, that the interpretation has to be according to the law, according to what has been mentioned in the preamble and according to the provisions of the constitution. Moving on, derived from India's struggle for independence. What we were struggling for, tell me? We were struggling for our liberty. We wanted our freedom. Liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, that is mentioned, directly mentioned in the preamble of the constitution. We were fighting for equality, that is also mentioned. We were fighting for unity and integrity of the country and for the dignity of individual, that is also mentioned. All these values are also coming from the freedom struggle which India has led against the colonial rule, British colonial rule. So these are few elements which we are going to discuss: sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic. This shows the nature of the Indian constitution and the nature of the Indian state. Along with it, these are the values, inspirations which we want to have. This shows the future. This is there in the present also, but we want our society to be just, to be liberal, to be equal, and there shall be fraternity. That brotherhood is very important for a country to grow. Moving on, the first word is sovereign. What do you think about sovereignty? Sovereignty simply means that a country has the ability to take its own decision. एक देश के ऊपर किसी भी बाहरी ताकत का कोई हाथ नहीं है. कोई भी बाहरी ताकत, कोई भी बाहरी देश उस पे डायरेक्टली या इनडायरेक्टली कंट्रोल नहीं करता है. किस तरह के लॉज, रूल्स, रेगुलेशंस आपके पार्लियामेंट में बनते हैं, ये आप खुद बनाते हो. आपकी चुनी हुई सरकार बनाती है. ये ब्रिटेन की पार्लियामेंट या अमेरिका की पार्लियामेंट अपन को नहीं बताती है. एंड दैट इज व्हाट इज सॉवरेनिटी. ऑपरेशन सिंदूर करना था, हमने कर दिया. अमेरिका हमको नहीं बताएगा करना है कि नहीं करना है. आई होप यू आर गेटिंग इट. सो द डिसीजन मेकिंग विच अवर गवर्नमेंट हैज टू डू विल बी exclusive of the rest of the world. We are not going to consider the rest of the world and their opinion for whatever decisions we are taking or whatever law we are making or however we are interpreting our constitution. That is something which you should understand. Direct rule, that was something which was colonialism. One foreign country comes to your country and makes it a colony. Now that era is over. There is an era of neo-colonialism nowadays. जैसे चाइना करता है, डेट ट्रैप में आपको फंसा देता है. अभी recently I was reading, I think Ghana has taken some $2 trillion loan from China, and it is in a debt trap. कहाँ से रिपे करें? तो चाइना पे एक तरह की डिपेंडेंस हो गई है, और जब आपको देना पड़ता है चाइना को ये पैसा और आप you're unable to pay it back, then the Chinese government influences your policies. So that is what indirect control is all about, the neo-colonialism thing, that indirectly the other countries are trying to have control over your legislative and executive processes on your decision making. ये तो rampantly होता था पहले जब colonialism था. आपकी कोई भी गवर्नमेंट होती थी, उसके ऊपर बाहर का जो कंट्रोल था वो बहुत हैवी था, बट अब ऐसा नहीं होता है. साथ ही में दोस्तों एक बात और बताना चाहूंगा, देयर आर मल्टीलेटरल groupings and international groupings such as United Nations, such as Commonwealth of Nations, such as there are so many. India can join any one of them. It does not reduces in any way, shape or form the sovereignty of our nation. Sovereignty बिल्कुल इससे हैम्पर नहीं होती है, क्योंकि इंडिया चाहे तो किसी भी समय उस ग्रुपिंग को छोड़ सकता है. we are the member of the Commonwealth and we can leave the Commonwealth at any point in time. आप समझिए इस बात को, जब इंडिया कॉमनवेल्थ का मेंबर बना था तो दिस थिंग वाज दिस क्वेश्चन वाज रेज्ड दैट इंडिया इज अ सॉवरेन कंट्री एंड समहाउ becoming the member of the Commonwealth will subdue or submine India's sovereignty. Very beautifully it was said by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru at that point in time that India is not losing its sovereignty just because it is becoming the member of a multilateral forum. India can leave that forum at any point in time, and that forum is not going to influence the policies of the government, and that is the reason why India is sovereign. Those international groupings are important. There is WHO, there is WTO, all these groupings are important. United Nations is very important, G20 is very important, G7 is very important, SARC, ASEAN, there are many things. India is a part of all these. Now the point is, these forums do not in any way, shape or form affects the policies of India. And if it is affecting the policies of India, that is affecting in a positive manner, such as Paris climate deal. Now we are the one who have promised that INDCs, intended national contribution for climate change, so that whatever climate change is happening, there shall be our contribution also to reduce its impact. अब इस सिनेरियो में अगर आप देखें और आप कहें कि भाई ये तो मल्टीनेशनल फोरम है और इंडिया की सॉवरेनिटी को इन्फ्रिंज कर रहा है, सो दैट्स नॉट अ ट्रू थिंग. That's a misplaced understanding of what sovereignty is. I hope you're getting it. So these multilateral forums are very important for the country to become a member of the world community. हम अकेले अलग थलग नहीं रहना चाहेंगे ना, नॉर्थ कोरिया की तरह. So I hope you're getting is that does not affect our sovereignty. Socialist, this was added by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act along with secularism. So this word socialist reflects the kind of government policy which India is going to follow. Now point is that it was added in 1976 and now there have been demands to remove this from the preamble. The cases and the petitions have been filed in the Supreme Court for the removal of this with the background that it was added during the emergency period. Now this particular act, the particular amendment came in 1976 and the emergency was imposed in 1975 and it continued till 1977. In between the emergency, when most of the opposition and the important opposition leaders were in jail, at that point in time, the parliament at that of that era took the advantage and passed this amendment. And they have done tremendous amount of changes, and one of them was inserting this word socialist into the constitution, into the preamble. Now the point is that is the basis, but in one or the other way, if you think, it is enriching our preamble. It is not abridging our preamble. It is not reducing any value, or it is not showing that India is some other kind of state. It is just saying India is a socialist state, which India was before this date also. Okay. Supreme Court has said a very important and something that explains in the true nature the meaning of the word socialist. An argument was made that this word socialist restricts a particular government if they want to follow the other kind of economic philosophy such as liberal economic philosophy or a capitalist economic philosophy. तो एक government है, वो democratically elect हुई है, अगर वो capitalist format पे जाना चाहे, liberal way of life follow करवाना चाहे या फिर liberal economic policies लाना चाहे, तो ये word socialist उसको कहीं ना कहीं रोकता है, because socialist is a bit different from capitalists. Supreme Court in one or the other way has made it clear by stating that this socialist word which was inserted does not mean that it is attached to any economic philosophy. It does not restrict the use of liberalism as an economic philosophy or economic policy. On the other hand, this word socialism reflects the welfareistic nature of the society which India has. सो भारत जो एक वेलफेयरिस्टिक नेचर है, भाई भारत में बहुत डाइवर्सिटी है, एंड द डाइवर्सिटी ऑल्सो हैज़ अ नेगेटिव एंगल, a negative tinge to it. And what was that? The divides which were made because of the social structure of this country. There are huge divides between religion, between castes, between genders, and because of those divides there is also a marginalized section which has been the underprivileged section, which has been sort of suppressed historically, which has been suppressed educationally and socially. To uplift those people of a particular caste, or for that matter women, to uplift those, some special provisions have to be made, and those special provision amounts to creation of conditions and facilities in the society so that those underprivileged sections, those marginalized sections grow and reach to the optimum level, come to the mainstream of the society, and the society becomes more egalitarian. That is what is the welfareistic nature of the society, that the government is coming forward to help the marginalized section through special provisions. The special provisions can be reservations also, reservations for government jobs, reservations into the educational institute, and at the same time several policies and schemes of the government which in an indirect way helps these sections to grow. They can learn skill development, they can be provided basic level of education, health, sanitation, nutrition, housing. These are very important. So that kind of help which is given by the government to the downtrodden section of the society, to the marginalized section of the society, comes under the welfareistic nature of the government, and the word socialist reflects that welfareistic nature. I hope you are getting that. It's the main thing is to remove these inequalities and the entrenched inequalities which are there in India. Entrenched means they have been running in our society from a very long time. Economic, social, both. Promotes a welfare state with fair wealth distribution. Secular, what does secular means? Two important things which you should remember when you are studying secularism. One is that the state does not have any religion of its own. The state does not attaches it with any religion. And the second important thing is that all the religions in a country are treated equally. There is equality between different religions. Okay, equality before law, and there is also equal protection of law to all the religions. Now, it is very important for you to understand secularism in Indian context. It is different from how secularism is followed in the Western context. In West, when their society was in making, they had a homogeneous society. They had only one religion, which is Christianity, and church was has very heavily sort of influenced their social, economic, cultural and political life. And that is the reason why they not only fought against the nobility, but they have also fought against the clergy, against the church, and that is the reason why there is mutual exclusion or clear-cut separation between the state and the church in those society. There was no diversity in that society. It was a homogeneous society, one religion, that's it. That is the reason they focused more on intra-religious equality. If there are differences within a religion, okay, let's say there are several sects within a religion, and every religion on earth have different sects based on their different interpretation of the religion and the religious text and the religious authors. Muslims have Shias, Sunnis. There are several forms of Hinduism followed within Hinduism. Protestants and Catholics in the Christian religion. So the equality has to be maintained within religion, and the individuals, a girl or a boy, a man or a woman, has to be treated equally. That was their interpretation. But look it from the perspective of India. India was a diverse country when our constitution was made. That is the reason we not only follow the intra-religious equality, but also the inter-religious equality, that there shall be equality between two religions. because we have so many religions. When their constitution was in making, they did not have so many religions. They had only one religion, and that is the reason they focused on the inner thing. Within the religion, when sects are there, they should be equal. But in India, the intra-religious equality and the inter-religious equality both are followed. Addition to that, the state must not attach itself with any religion. It should protect all the religion, should promote all the religion, it should help all the religion, make all the religion feel secure, but it should not favor one religion over another religion. That is what is secularism in India. And that is how it is reflected in our preamble. It ensures religious freedom and harmony. Moving on, democratic. What is this word democratic? It simply means the government is elected. There can be multiple levels of government. We have 3 levels of government. There is government at the center level, in the state level, and at the local level. So the same set of people are governed by 2 or sometimes 3 layers of government. That is what is called federalism. And all these levels of government, whether it be the local level, the state level, or the national level, should be elected by the people, and that is what is called democracy. Now the election can be direct or indirect depending on what kind of structure or what kind of principle we have taken. India has a parliamentary form of government which is considered as one of the most stable forms of government in the world. It simply means that the executive is sort of responsible on the legislature, and this form of government, the parliamentary form of government, is a bit different from the presidential form of government which is followed in the United States. But the elections has to be there after a particular period of time. Usually after 5 years elections are held in India for all kind of representative body, whether it be the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha or the state legislative assembly, councils, and the panchayats and municipalities. So the democracy is there, the people's participation is there. And how does this people's participation came? Thanks to one of the greatest president of the United States, by saying that democracy in true sense is about government of the people, for the people, and by the people. And that is what we follow in India also. Of the people, for the people, by the people. The government of the people, government for the people, and government by the people. I hope you are getting it. It's very simple English. I think you have got the idea. Then you have universal adult suffrage. This electoral roll, Article 325 and 26. If you see, everybody who is above the age of 18 years are eligible to give votes in India. Similarly, you can cast your vote at the same time. What you can do? You can also start a political party. You can establish a political party, or you can join one political party and you can fight elections also. That is the political equality which is maintained in the country, the political freedom which you have, and also reflects the democratic nature of the state. Republic, through this democratic way of life, through this democratic election process, through this democratic polity which we maintain in our country, the head of the state is also elected. Now the head of the state in India is the President of India, and the President of India is elected after every 5 years. Compare this with the monarchical democracy which is followed in England. There they do have democracy, but at the same time their democracy is monarchical in nature. The head of the state is a family, the king or a queen. They are not elected. There have been a movement going on in England against this royal family, but at the same time there are people who are in favor of the royal family, but it's their matter. In India we have established from a long time that no one family or hereditary king or a queen would be there, but India would be a republic. That simply means our president, who is the head of the state, will be elected. Hope you are getting it. Justice. Now, three kinds of justice are there: social justice, economic justice, and political justice. Social justice is that there shall not be any kind of discrimination in the society, or dominance, institutional dominance in the society of one caste over the other, of one religion over the other, of a majority religion over the minority religion, of males over females. This institutional dominance has to go, and that is what is social justice all about. Then some kind of egalitarianism has to be there, some kind of equality has to be maintained between two different sections of people, between two different communities, and institutional dominance shall not be there. That is what is social justice. At the same time, economic justice is about reduction of the great divides we have on the basis of wealth, property distribution, resource distribution. Political justice, equal participation in political process. Now, you want to give a vote or you want to stand in the election, you are allowed to do that. If you are the citizen of India, you are above the age of 18 years, and for fighting the election, either of 21 years, 25 years or 35 years, depending upon the different posts for which you want to stand in the election or you want to fight the election, you are allowed to do that, and that is what is justice. Three kinds of justice. This is one of the great value we follow. This is the aspiration we want to establish totally and firmly in our country. Liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship. Thought and expression, very well given in article 19(1)(a), where the freedom of speech and expression is given. Freedom or liberty is the most cherished goal of the human race. Until and unless you have liberty or freedom, you won't be able to grow properly. The society will not be able to develop itself. So liberty is the basis of growth, and if it is not there, then there are problems in the society. And fundamental right under article 19 clause 1 subclause A mentions that there shall be right to freedom of speech and expression. Now, right to think is the basis of speech and expression. Until and unless you can think, how would you express? So if you are thinking something, there is a vision or there is a thought and there is an idea or a philosophy, and after sufficiently thinking over it, brooding over it, contemplating over it, you want to express it in the form of a tweet, a book, a novel, an article, anything, you can do that very easily because it's permissible in our society. You can also make a movie, you can also write a play, or you can make a group who can do Nukkad Natak in your city. So you can express your thoughts, you can express your beliefs, you can express your thinking, you can express your vision in any way or any form you want. Of course, there are reasonable restrictions, but this freedom is very essential for the growth of human beings. Belief, faith and worship. Article 25 is there, Article 29 and Article number 30 are there. You can very easily practice, propagate and profess your religion under Article 25. There are several tax exemptions also which are given to you. Freedom of religion is available to you. At the same time, if you belong to a minority community, minority religious community, you are also allowed to open your educational institute so that one culture does not dominate over your culture, and there are people who understand and become aware of your culture, especially the people from your own community. That is a very, very important right which is provided by the Constitution to the religious minorities in the country, so that their cultural significance is not diminished under the majority rule, or when the government is there which supports the majority, or when the government looks after the majority, not the minority. That can happen. That is the reason why constitutionalism as a philosophy is maintained, that the government should not do this vote bank politics and should not go to the extent of excluding the minorities altogether. They have to follow secularism, and they have to follow the social, economic and political justice, and the liberty has to be maintained. It is protected by the fundamental rights, we have already seen this, and is subject to reasonable restrictions, because absolute freedom is not available to anybody. And if absolute freedom is there, then the whole society will be in chaos, there will be anarchy everywhere. Nobody's liberty would be protected, and everybody's liberty would be at stake. Equality, no discrimination based on caste, religion, gender. Article number 14 to article number 18, so many things are written. There shall be equality before law and equal protection of law. It's a broad principle, and a subset of that principle is article number 15, which specifies several grounds like religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, on the basis of which state cannot discriminate. Similarly, state cannot discriminate in the matters of public employment on the same basis, and with the addition of two more. Now, equal opportunities, that is very important. Our society is very diverse, isn't it? There are also marginalized sections in this society. We also have the underprivileged section, who have been historically, educationally, socially backward. Government has to create some kind of condition. That is what we have learned recently in the word social, or the social form of government, the socialist system, that the government creates some kind of condition, creates some kind of facilities for the marginalized society to grow. Similarly here, those facilities which are given by the government in one or the other way can be called as opportunities, and these opportunities should be equally available to all the citizens, should be equally available to all the sections of citizens, to all the different groups, including the marginalized section. Also, several preferential treatment can be given to the marginalized or the underprivileged section, because they need government help more than the normal people, the other people needs them. And that is what is equality. In order to maintain equality, three important principles have to be followed. One is that there should be equal treatment. Then there has to be special or preferential treatment, and proportionate justice. Luckily, India follows all of them. Proportionate justice simply means that if you do a skillful work, you will be awarded more than the person who is doing a less skillful work. That is needed. Special treatment is needed for marginalized section, and equal treatment is a broader principle which should be followed in a society which is egalitarian. Now, one more thing, abolition of untouchability. That is very important in Article 18, that the state does not want to create any kind of special class for the privileged section, and that is the reason why abolition of titles are also done in the country. Fraternity, it ensures a sense of brotherhood, that is what it is, and unity in the citizen. See, the word fraternity, it's very important word, and it cannot be ensured, but it can be promoted. The brotherhood has to be promoted in the society. Equality, justice, liberty, they can be ensured, but fraternity cannot be ensured, and hence you promote fraternity in the society. The brotherhood, the feeling of brotherhood between two different religion, between the people of two different communities and different sections, that has to be there, and that can be there only when equality is there, only when there is no discrimination on the country on the basis of religion, race, caste, etc. This harmony and the peace which we want in our society, the fraternity or the brotherhood which we want in our society, can only be maintained when you follow and ensure justice, equality and liberty in the society. That is how you promote fraternity. It guarantees the dignity of the individual and promotes the national unity and integration. Very important, very, very important for the functioning of a society. Now, judicial interpretation, there have been several cases in the Supreme Court which has decided on the role of preamble and at the same time the status of the preamble. If you consider this Berubari case of 1960, it says that preamble is not enforceable. That simply means if the government is going against some or the other value or aspirations which are given in the preamble, can you approach the court by saying that it is against the preamble of the constitution? So it is not justiciable. The court is not going to entertain such a petition. But if a petition is filed with the basis that a particular action of the government or rule or legislation made by the legislature is against the fundamental right, it is curtailing or infringing or violating the fundamental right, then it becomes a justiciable issue. But infringement of the preamble is not a justiciable issue. You should understand this. In the Keshwananda Bharati case, which established the basic structure doctrine in the country, preamble is a part of the constitution, it has been said. And then comes the SR Bomoi case, very important case after the riots, after the demolition of the Babri Masjid. And it has said that secularism is the fundamental feature or the basic structure of the Indian constitution. That simply means the content of the preamble, such as secularism, is the basic structure of the constitution. Cannot be changed. You can abridge it, you can enrich it, but you cannot abridge it. That is the reason why the word socialist and secular and integrity, when was added in 1976 by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, the court said nothing against it. Why? Because those words were enriching the Indian constitution and enriching the preamble of the constitution. It was not abridging the preamble of the constitution. I hope you are getting it. This amendment 1976, by adding the word socialist, secular and integrity, it has strengthened the ideological commitment of the Indian constitution. So in conclusion, that preamble reflects the soul of the constitution. All the aspirations, values, provisions which are given in the constitution in some or the other way reflects the legislative intent and is a tool for the interpretation of the constitution, and that is why we can say that it is the soul of the constitution. Not directly enforceable but crucial for interpretation and acts as a guiding principle for governance, policy making. Any kind of policy which the government makes, in one or the other way it follows the preamble. Either the policy is made to establish social justice, economic or political justice in the country. It is there to maintain equality in the country, or the liberty and the freedom. Positive freedom is also there. For example, freedoms are given. But what if a person is unable to enjoy the freedom because of the circumstances the person is living in? If a person is poor and disabled, how can the person enjoy liberty or equality? For that, the state needs to create some condition and facility. There shall be, free education and health which should be given, the minimum basic facility. Then that person should have a wheelchair. Person should have ramps. The vehicle has to go on a ramp. Ramps should be available in the schools, in the medical facilities. Then only the person can have access to those educational facilities. Then there should be special toilets made, special transport which should be there, and state does all these things. Then only you can say that you have given equal opportunity to people who are poor and at the same time disabled, and you have brought them to the level of the other sections of the society, and then they can develop from there. To lift them up is the duty of the state. I hope you are getting it. And that is how the policies are made in India, which reflects the intent, which reflects the aspirations and the goals which are mentioned in the preamble of the Constitution. So thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you very much for joining to me in this lecture. We are going to complete this series soon, and you will be able to gain, achieve good marks in polity after you follow this series and make notes. Tomorrow we will be coming up with another important topic. By then,